Alright, in this video we'll be looking at setting up Visual Studio. We're going to download the Community Edition. This might look a little different depending on how you get there. You may see a different page with Visual Studio. Usually you'll see this page. I was having trouble accessing it this way before, but when we come here, the Visual Studio for the Mac will not work for C++ development for this course. It won't support C++ on the Mac and within Visual Studio. And then this code environment, Visual Studio Code, I believe is some kind of a remote code editor, but won't have all the compiling tools. So we do need Visual Studio. When it comes to downloading, though, we just need the free Community 2019 version. When you click on it, just wait here. It'll pop up a box, and then you'll go ahead and save this. It should save to your downloads. It saves pretty quick because you're just downloading the installer. So once you start to install it, it runs the Visual Studio installer. And mine is probably going to go really quick because I already had it installed. I just deinstalled it so I could run through the installer again. So I'm just going to let it finish up here so we can see what the next screens look like. Alright, when it comes up here, the only thing that we need for our course is the desktop development with C++. So you can download any of these other tools or languages or any of the other things. Just remember they all eat up space on your computer. But the only thing we'll need is this desktop development with C++. Okay, so while it goes through this, I'm going to go ahead and pause. Alright, so Visual Studio is installed. It comes up with this sign-in, and you can bypass it with this not now, maybe later. But if you don't sign in, then your version of Visual Studio will lock on you after 30 days. Now, all it takes is a Microsoft account to sign in, and it could be from your Xbox. But all of your FGCU student accounts have been set up as Microsoft accounts. All your FGCU Eagle accounts are set up as Microsoft accounts. So you can just start to sign in with your Eagle. You would use your Eagle email address. And it should take us to our work or school account. And it should take us to our FGCU single sign-on page. And if I did that correctly, it should sign me in. All right, looks good so far. Okay, so we come up to the new project page, and we can actually close the Visual Studio installer now. So I'm just going to close that from behind the scenes. And so just to go through a real quick hello world, which I already had one from a previous, but I'm going to start a new project. So this is typically, we'll come in and create a new project. And we just want an empty C++ project for the C++ Windows console. I'm going to give it a project name, and I'm going to use capitalization in the name of the project, and I'll call this Hello. and let's just do hello world. Oh, hello CPP for hello C++. And this is the default address that it will normally want to store it in, but it's not a very friendly address. If we go here, there is no easy way to see your user ID sources. You have to then expand this and go down and find your users, and through here up here's my user folder, and then I'll find sources. So it's not very intuitive here, but if and let me so what I'm going to do is I would normally want to put it somewhere I can get quick access to it, and the documents is a good place to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just replace source in here with documents. And then repos is short for repository, and that's a good place to keep all of our projects. So I'll leave it like that. And then this will be, okay, so a solution is something that we can hold a bunch of projects in, but we would typically just want to do one project per solution. So I'm going to check this box, which will gray that out to make the solution and the project be in the same folder and sort of the same thing. And we'll see that in a minute. And I'll go ahead and click Create. All right, and the first time launching Visual Studio, we're in the development environment. Notice we have nothing open in the editor window here. We have these dialog windows. This is the Solution Explorer, which is the most important for us typically. And if you're not seeing any of the windows that you need to, usually you can find them under View, and then here's the Solution Explorer is the first one. Sometimes you can also find things in Windows, and some of these others like debug windows, these will start to become more available as we start debugging. All right, but usually right here in View, you'll find most of the windows that you need. All right, so we need the Solution Explorer. This is our solution named Hello CPP, and here's our project. If we were creating a really large application with a main executable and then maybe some other libraries that were part of the project that were source code we were writing or as part of the project, we might have multiple projects within the solution for each of those, and we would just work on them individually or be able to build the entire thing at one time. So we're just going to have one project in this solution, so we're, virtually to us these are the same. All right, we've got a logical organization. These are virtual folders, and we can kind of see that if we go back out now and we go into documents and repos. Here's our Hello CPP folder for the project and solution, and in here right now all we have are these solution and Visual C project XML property files, and if you're not seeing these extensions, you really need to be able to if you click on View here, you can check this box, File Name Extensions, and that way you'll always see the full extension of a file, which is important so you make sure you're grabbing the right file when it comes time to submit assignments. Right, so, but notice we don't see any of these folders in here, which is fine. We don't need to. All right, so back in our interface, just some cleanup real quick. We won't need any of these other dialog windows right now to include the ones that are hidden over here, and they can kind of cause a little bit of confusion as you're first getting started. So I advise clicking on them and just clicking the little X's to get rid of them for now. And then same thing, we don't need Git changes right now, or the property manager, or the class view. We just want the Solution Explorer. All right, so now to get our Hello World going, we need a C++ source code file. So I'm just going to start by selecting source files. I'm going to right click and do Add a New Item. Now I can also do that through this project window. I can do Add a module or a class or a resource or a new item, right? So I'm just going to do it here, add a new item. And we want a C++ or .cpp file, And this is why it's also important to be able to see extensions, because if you don't, it may auto add the extension for you, and if you like did this, you might end up with .cpp. So what we're going to do is we're going to call this hello cpp .cpp. Now, notice I've lowercase this file compared to the name of the project. And I'm going to show why. And I shouldn't have to modify this path. It's in my documents repos hello CPP solution. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. And notice it'll organize it under the source files folder. If we look back out at the file system real quick, notice it's just right here, and it stands out from the rest of my other files. So I know that's my source code file. Matter of fact, even if I didn't have file name extensions visible, it's still, let's see, it's still showing it for me because I think because I already had it. Let me go back to, yeah, so it's still keeping the extensions because I already had it enabled before. But you can tell this file from the other files. All right, so we're going to start with just some of our basic statement types. We're going to start with a multi-line comment, which is /**/. Now, only type the /**, and it already color-coded it. That's our lexical color coder. And then it's also filled in the rest of it for me, and that's our context-sensitive help or code completion. All right, and so I can just hit enter here and give myself a little space, and we'll go into why, but I'm going to add a, oops, it's going to fight me, but I'm going to add an extra asterisk at the top, and that's just going to, we'll talk about that more as we go, but that's going to help tie this into the documenter part of the Visual Studio interface. So we'll see that later. But right now we're going to keep things really simple. We're not going to get crazy with formatting or any of that. But we do need some properties in here that represent this comment block at the top of our file is going to be called the file header comment block, and it's going to be important for our class. We're going to put in the name of our file, hellocpp.cpp, and we want to put who we are. So we can just do something like by or author. You can line these things up. We want to do an organization, and we are COP 2001, and this is the, whatever semester it is. Put your semester, what term we're in right now, spring, whatever, and then put our course CRN number. And I'm doing this like a template because this video will be used across multiple years. And then we want a short description of this file, this file for this program. And this file might represent the whole program. And we want a functional comment. We don't want technical. We want something that describes to somebody right off the bat what is the purpose of this file in the larger scheme of this application. And it's okay early on to have what I would call an academic description, because most of this will be academic. As we get going, though, you need to keep editing these descriptions to make them more descriptive of the functional use of the file. So in this case, we can just say this is a demo C++ hello world. All right. Okay, so we're going to come down here. We need to start off with an int main function. And that's why we have the left and right parentheses, so that we have the parameter list. And we do have some parameters we could put in there, but we're not going to worry about that right now. And whenever we start to declare a function, we know we're doing a declaration because we have the data type included here. And this would be the return data type. So main is returning an int, and it returns it back to the operating system, since this is the operating system is going to call our main. And since it returns an int, we need to return an int. So we need a return instruction, and we're just going to return 0, which tells the operating system our program exited successfully. Doesn't mean that it didn't run without logical errors. It just means it didn't blow up. So we're going to return 0 there. And this is a good template. So I would suggest make sure you save. Right before I hit save here, if I do something here, notice the little asterisk up here, and it's giving me the pop-up to where it is and with an asterisk. But that asterisk is telling me that this file has modifications and needs to be saved. And you can just hit this, or I hit Control S a lot to save my file and make sure that asterisk's gone. And now if I was to go out here, I could grab this file, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to come back up to my root documents, and I'm going to paste it here, and I'm just going to change its name real quick to template.cpp. And if I open that up in a text editor, right, I can come in here and I can do, and change that. I could like make sure you set your, let's say 220, 21, 01, let's say 104.10 or 104.09, and edit description. All right, and now I have a basic template that I can save here, and whenever I want to start a new project, I can just copy this into that new project. And if I have more things that start to become part of the course template, I can just keep adding them to this template. But this way, when I start a brand new project, I can create my source file. I can then open this in an editor, copy it, paste it in here as my beginning code, make sure I change the file name and the description, and I'm off to a good start. All right. For instance, in here we're going to want to write hello world out to the console, and in most programs we're going to have some output to the console. So we might want to include, using a compiler directive to include, we may want to include a library, and it's a system library, so we need to use the chevrons, and it's giving us that list of header files that we talked about. The include environment variable is showing us where all of these might be, and we want IO stream. So I'm going to just highlight using the arrow keys and then hit enter, and it's filled it in for me. Right, and that's going to be in a lot of my programs. So I might copy that over to, and let's do an end of line comment here. I'm just giving myself a little space. I'm going to say console output library. Right, and that way I have a nice functional comment about why we've included the IO stream. All right, I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to switch over to my template here, and I'm going to keep that as part of my template. All right, and that way I don't have to always re-add it. I can just copy this template in. All right, so back here, we just want to say hello world. We're going to use the standard template library. We can do that by prefixing with the standard template namespace. These two asterisks mean namespace. And we are going to do a console out function, which is cout. Right? And then we need to put text into the console. We are going to use what's called the insertion operator, which is 2 left chevrons. And then we can say hello C++. Right, and then let's have a carriage return after a line feed afterwards, and we're going to do that using the standard template library nline. And this way we don't have to know what the nline character is. We can just let the library handle putting in the correct one for us. So I'm going to save. And then we need to compile this. Now, we will get syntax handling. So if I had spelt this wrong, it'll start to tell me. And this is syntax checking in the editor. It's not syntax error handling. And if I was to compile this right now, I'm going to go to a build, and it doesn't matter since we just have one project in the solution. I can build the solution or the project. I'll just click the first one. And we're going to get an output window that's going to show up here. All right, and it says it failed. All right, and we can even see up here there's one error. Right, and if I look through this output text, if I start at the top and I just scan down until I find the word error, it'll tell me what the error code is. So this is something I can Google, and then it'll start to tell me what it saw. And it's going to say is not a member of standard. Standard being a namespace, it's saying that COT is not a member of the standard template library namespace, right? And it's telling me back here in this C++ file at line 12, character 7. And if I double click this line, it will take me, oh, I clicked too many times, there we go. It will take me to line 12, you can see it down here on the right, line 12, character 7. So it's taking me right to where the problem is. All right. Now also, if I click on this X up here, I get this error list. And sometimes this error list window will pop up over the output window. You notice they're both right here. And sometimes this will pop up front. And it's telling me the same thing. It's telling me multiple errors here. And if I look over, it's telling me that they're on line 12. And I can click on any of those and it'll take me to that same place. Right? Always solve the first error first, in that the first error will normally solve any additional errors. Like it's telling us we can't do an insertion into this because COT is an undeclared identifier. So always start with the very first one, right? Or through here. Always solve the first error. Don't worry about ones below it, like this one, because solving the first one normally will solve those. All right, so let's do that. Let's change this back to our C out. I'm going to save. I'm going to build. By this time, I'll build the project. All right, and notice we got it succeeded, and we have nothing on the error list. Okay, and one thing, if you click on the project and highlight it, and you come up here, notice you can build the solution and the project. If you accidentally click on the solution, the project building will be grayed out. And don't worry about that. You can still build the whole solution. It doesn't matter. It's just something I know have driven some people nuts before trying to figure it out. All right. If you've already built and nothing has changed, it will tell you, and you try to build again, it'll just say it's up to date. All right, so let's just run. I'm going to click on this local Windows debugger button. And if you don't see that, you should find it in here. Start with debugging. All right. All right, and our program is going to come up. And there we go, it's done, it ended. It printed out our hello C++ world, it did a line break, and then it ended. We see it exited with code 0, which we returned 0, so everything worked good. And it's waiting for us to press any key to close this window. Now that's a newer version of Visual Studio. If you have an older version of Visual Studio, it might have just blown right through that and that window would disappear. So one way you can prevent that is here on line 14, there's a gray bar over here, slight gray bar. If I click in that gray bar, this red dot is a breakpoint. And I can do it on any executable line. I can do it here. I could do it here. There's an executable line. I cannot do it here on the int main. That's a declaration statement. And this is a compiler directive. So I can't do it here, and I can't do it on these comments or in white space. I have to do it on an executable line. All right, even though it'll look like I can put a breakpoint there, it won't work for you. So, but now when I start up my local Windows debugger, it's going to run and it's going to stop on this line. That yellow arrow is telling me this is the next line to execute. And we'll talk more about debugging. We'll even close most of these windows later, like diagnostic tools and all that. We'll leave these open for now. We'll mess around with debugging a little bit later. But if I come down here, I can find my console window. There it is. We can see it's done the printing, it's done the line feed, and now we're sitting here waiting to do the return. To execute this, I can use this step over. Notice the curved one. All right, that's the one we want to use for a while. We'll use step in later when we start creating our own functions, but you don't really want to use that now, as you might end up stepping into a system library and you'll end up with source code up here for your system libraries, which is not very fun to look through. So step over just says step over this line and execute it. Or I can just say continue. And either way, it's going to execute the return and end. So I'll do step over. All right, and now we're here. If I just hit continue now, it'll all be over. If we look at our console window, for us, it's still the same. We can see it, and it's waiting for us to press any key to close. All right, so that's a quick how to download, install, set up the C++ environment, get your first project created, build our file template, and do just go through some of our basic statements, and hello C++ world. All right, I'll have more demos coming up for Mac and some of the other platforms, development platforms.